It's taken 4 long months, but the Conservative Party have finally crowned their new leader. Here's Kemi Badenoch giving her victory speech.
It is the most enormous honour to be elected to this role, to lead the party that I love, the party that has given me so much. I hope that I will be able to repay that debt. Our party is critical to the success of our country, but to be heard, we have to be honest. Honest about the fact that we made mistakes. Honest about the fact that we let standards slip. The time has come to tell the truth.
A day later, however, Badenoch seemed less than thrilled to be asked about what this truth might be. Here's what she said to Laura Kunsberg.
One of the things that's very important is that we draw a line under all that happened over the last 14 years. We've lost an election, a historic defeat, and simply churning over every single incident, I don't think is going to be helpful for dealing with where we are today.
So if you want to draw a line then, what is the truth about what went wrong with Liz Truss? Was it recklessness? Do you think that perhaps as the new leader, in order to move on, you should say sorry to the public about the turmoil that caused?
Well, Laura, what I'm here to do is talk about how I'm going to be leading the Conservative Party. We can have a post-mortem on each and every Prime Minister over the last 14 years, but I don't think that that's particularly helpful for your viewers. There will be a post-mortem. There's plenty of time for us to think about how we can improve the offer that we have for the public.
You stood on a platform yesterday and said it was time to tell the truth about what went wrong with your party.
Yes.
So,
and I have said that. But what I'm not going to do is sit down and go through line by line every single thing that everybody did wrong.
I'm just asking you what went wrong with Liz Truss, who was in power for a matter of weeks, who caused huge economic turmoil, who lots of people in your party said was disastrous for your prospects. So I'm just asking what you think the truth is on what went wrong. We don't have to go on and on about it. Just brief it. What do you think went wrong?
But the point I'm making is that we had a historic defeat. I stood up yesterday and said that we need to be honest, that we got things wrong. What I don't want to do this morning is start listing all of the things we got wrong. There's plenty of time to do that. What I'm here to do is set out how there's going to be a change under my leadership.
It's time to tell the truth. It's time to be honest, but only for 20 minutes. Kemi Badenoch is a vocal opponent of critical race theory and trans rights, a self-proclaimed gender-critical feminist who admitted to hacking Labour grandee Harriet Harman's website. She was accused of bullying and traumatising staff while business secretary, allegations she denied. And during her leadership campaign, she made comments attacking maternity pay, the minimum wage, and children with autism. Following her victory, she's also managed to upset and alienate the bereaved relatives of the COVID dead.
A lot of the stuff that happened around Partygate was not why I resigned. I thought that it was overblown. We should not have created fixed penalty notices, for example. That was us not going with our principles.
The public wrong to be upset about Partygate? You say it was overblown.
No, they were not wrong to be upset about Partygate. The problem was that we should not have criminalised everyday activities the way that we did. People going out for walks, all of them having fixed penalty notices. That was what ended up, creating a trap for Boris Johnson.
But wasn't the problem that people in government didn't obey the rules?
Yes, that's right. People in government didn't obey the rules, but they were not MPs. They were often staffers. And I think that the way that we had created those regulations ended up entrapping...
The Prime Minister and the Chancellor both got fines. It wasn't just people who worked for them.
Indeed. But as we saw with those events, when people see the full story of what actually happened, they understand that things were created, problems were created because of the way that we had created the regulations.
Kemi Badenoch is the first black woman, indeed first black person, to lead a political party in Britain. Here's how she feels about achieving this milestone.
People across the political spectrum have lauded the fact that you're the first black leader of a UK political party. But you've previously said that you don't think we should overemphasise race, we shouldn't overemphasise identity. But I just wonder, what do you think of it as a milestone? You know what it's like for you when other people stand up and say, that's so marvellous. But what do you feel when you hear that?
So I think that the best thing will be when we get to a point where the colour of your skin is no more remarkable than the colour of your eyes or the colour of your hair. We live in a multiracial country, and that is great, but we have to work very hard to make sure that it doesn't become something divisive, where people see themselves as being part of groups rather than all being British. So when I hear people say, isn't this remarkable, we have a black female leader of the Conservative Party, I'm glad because it shows that my country and my party are actually places where it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like. It's about what the offer is. What I don't want is for that to be the thing that ends up being talked about. I find it astonishing that Rachel Reeves keeps talking about how she's the first female chancellor, which in my view is a very, very low glass ceiling within the Labour Party, which she may have smashed, nowhere near as significant as what other women in this country have achieved.
Aaron, Kemi Badenoch quite quickly became one of the front runners in the leadership race, and now she's taken the crown. Is this a fresh start, a new page for the Tory party?
It could be. I mean, I'll start with this. When Jeremy Corbyn was elected as leader of the Labour Party in 2015, I don't think anybody thought, including his biggest supporters, that there would be a general election within 2 years and that Labour, under his leadership, would secure a 10% increase in their share of the vote. The biggest increase in any party's share of the vote since 1945, under Labour, incidentally, with Clement Attlee. I don't think anybody, including his supporters, thought that Keir Starmer in 2020 would form a government within 4 years, and that his majority would be one of the biggest on record. You know, the majority that Labour won in July this year isn't quite on a par with Blair in 97, not far behind though, but he does have a bigger majority than Thatcher won in 79, 83 or 87. I don't think anybody would have predicted that in 2020. So that's the first place to start with. You know, it's easy to sort of write people off or dismiss them or disregard them, but it's early days and people surprise you. That's the point of politics, right? We don't all know what's coming. And not all of this is particularly predictable. Things can happen like COVID, like an economic crisis, like a scandal. However, it does seem to me that Kemi Badenoch winning the Tory leadership is an outcome which potentially is the best case scenario, not just for reform, not just for the Greens, not just for the Lib Dems, but for Labour too. In other words, all of the other parties potentially benefit from Badenoch winning rather than Robert Jenrick. There was polling actually which confirms this. So while Badenoch led as the preferred Prime Minister candidate amongst Tory members, and of course they're the people who matter, they just voted in this contest, amongst every other party, Jenrick was seen more favourably than her. So on reform, for instance, I think her position on the ECHR is going to be torn to shreds by Farage. Jenrick said that we need to leave. She has not said that. With the Green Party, I think she's just simply far more coded as on the hard right than Jenrick. I think she's going to have a harder time getting Labour voters in the Red Wall. And I think she's going to have a really hard time with Lib Dem voters. You know, near me, there's a place called Bishop's Waltham in Hampshire, rural Hampshire. It's of a piece with the kinds of seats that the Lib Dems picked up in the general election. Places like, Winchester, Chichester, further into the southwest, into Devon and so on, Jacob Rees-Mogg's seat. That kind of place. The Tories lost that in a council by-election. I think it was last week. And so I look at that. I look at the Tories having to fend off reform. I look at the Greens potentially challenging them in some rural seats, right, like Waveney Valley. And I look at Labour, and I think actually Badenoch could be exposed on all of those fronts. But, she's only been in the job 2 minutes. Us here at Novara Media, or we here at Novara Media rather, we don't like to just parrot whatever talking points you hear elsewhere in the media. People like to come to their conclusions very quickly. My instinct is she's going to have a very hard time. She's going to have a very hard time to get back the donors, to win back centrist media, to win back people like the BBC, because she's coded as too radically, culturally right-wing. I also should say, by the way, I don't believe in the identity politics argument. Isn't it wonderful that a person of colour is now X, Y, Z? But this is a woman who's of Nigerian heritage leading one of the oldest parties in Europe. I think maybe the oldest continuous political party in Europe. Tories have been around in their present form since 1834. I mean, it is a tremendous accomplishment. It just is. It reflects positively on the country, I think. And people are welcome to disagree. That's not a reason to vote for her. And it's also true that a politician on the right who's brown or black has more license to enact policies which may be particularly bigoted or repressive, particularly against minorities. That's true, but I also do think it's a positive thing that somebody of Nigerian heritage can lead a political party. That's not happened before. It wasn't really possible 30, 40 years ago. It now is. I think that's a positive thing and a sign of progress. But politically, I do suspect she's going to struggle. And the people who are licking their lips with all of this are Reform. She is the ideal candidate for Farage. I think Jenrick would have caused them real problems in trying to build on their vote from July. I think they view Kemi Badenoch as a slightly easier character to overwhelm.
I think you're right there. I mean, of all the candidates, I actually find her the most, I was going to say interesting, but I think I mean entertaining. Like, I quite enjoy watching a Kemi Badenoch interview. You know, she has this kind of, sort of haughty, aristocratic sort of bearing sometimes. She's very snappy. But I think you're totally right about how the other parties are going to triangulate around her. I mean, she's someone who's just like completely addicted to culture wars. And I feel like that's something that we've moved on from. And insofar as we haven't, it's already the territory of Reform. So the Tory party really probably does need to do something different. Maybe she'll be the person who'll do it. But as you say, from where I stand at the moment, it doesn't look like she will be.